Have you ever felt like you were standing on the edge of a vast, unforgiving landscape, weathering a storm that seemed determined to break you? A place where the wind howls through your soul, carrying away the remnants of dreams and leaving behind a chilling sense of isolation. Perhaps you've known the weight of a past that clings to you like a shadow, a history that whispers doubts and fears into the quietest corners of your heart. Maybe you've felt the sting of judgment, the sharp edges of rejection, or the burden of a love that betrayed your trust. We all carry stories within us, stories etched by pain, loss, and the relentless search for belonging. These stories shape the way we see the world, the way we build connections, and the way we allow ourselves to be loved. They can build walls, fortresses designed to keep us safe from further hurt. Or, if we're brave enough, these stories can become the foundation upon which we rebuild brick by brick, a life of deeper meaning and authentic connection. This is a journey about finding light in the darkest of places. It's about the unexpected connections that can bloom in the most desolate of landscapes. Imagine a man haunted by grief, living a life of solitude on the rugged plains of rural Montana. His world has been shaped by profound loss, leaving him isolated, his heart guarded. Then, a woman arrives, carrying her own burdens, her own story of betrayal and hardship. She is vulnerable, carrying within her the promise of new life, but also the weight of a past that threatens to consume her. Their meeting ignites a spark, a flicker of hope in the face of despair. It's a story of healing, of finding the courage to open your heart again, even when every instinct tells you to run and hide. It's a story about the transformative power of compassion, the quiet strength of kindness, and the profound impact of simply being seen. It's about understanding that true family isn't always defined by blood, but by the bonds of love, trust, and the unwavering commitment to stand together, no matter the storms that rage around you. We'll explore the shadows of the past, the fears that hold us captive, and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. We'll look at the challenges of opening yourself up to love again and the courage it takes to trust in a world that has, at times, seemed determined to break you. This is a journey of healing, of discovering the strength within you to not only to survive, but to thrive. Imagine the emotional landscape of someone like Wyatt, isolated for years, the weight of his past a constant presence. Now, consider how this isolation might have subtly reshaped his perception of the world. Furthermore, the very act of self-preservation, the need to shield himself from further devastation, can become a deeply ingrained habit. This manifests not just as physical distance, but also as an emotional detachment, a learned skill of keeping others at arm's length. Building on this, however, understand that this isn't necessarily a sign of coldness. Rather, it's a protective mechanism, a fortress built to safeguard a heart that has already endured so much trauma. It's the quiet desperation to avoid vulnerability, the fear of risking further loss. This is not about a lack of capacity for love. It's about a deep-seated fear of experiencing the unbearable pain of losing it again. Consequently, the arrival of someone like Hannah, with her own history of hurt and her own needs, would be a profound challenge to this carefully constructed solitude. The very act of opening the door to her, of offering shelter and care, would be a courageous step towards dismantling the walls Wyatt had built around himself. This, in itself, is an act of immense vulnerability. Conversely, let's consider the perspective of Hannah, arriving on Wyatt's doorstep, carrying the weight of her past and the uncertainty of her future. Another crucial layer is the sense of shame and guilt that often accompanies experiences of betrayal or rejection. She might internalize these feelings, believing she is somehow responsible for the hardships she's faced. This can manifest as a deep-seated sense of unworthiness, a belief that she does not deserve kindness or love. Furthermore, the experience of being cast out or abandoned can leave a lasting imprint on a person's sense of self. It can erode trust in others and instill a profound fear of vulnerability. Now consider the implications of this for her ability to form healthy relationships. It's not just about physical safety, it's about the emotional safety to trust, to open up, and to believe that she is worthy of love. Imagine her carefully constructed defenses, the layers of cynicism and self-protection she might have adopted to navigate a harsh world. The challenge for her would be to slowly dismantle these defenses, to allow herself to be seen, and to believe in the possibility of a different future for both Wyatt and Hannah. The journey towards healing is a delicate dance, a process of unlearning old patterns and embracing the possibility of new beginnings. Let's turn our attention to the deeper, emotional currents at play. Consider the impact of unresolved grief, the kind that lingers like a persistent ache in the soul. In Wyatt's case, the loss of his wife and unborn child would have likely created a profound wound, a space that continues to feel empty and raw, even years later. Furthermore, grief, especially when coupled with trauma, can manifest as a complex tangle of emotions, not just sadness. It can intertwine with anger, guilt, and even a sense of self-blame, creating an internal landscape that feels perpetually overcast. Building on this, however, the emotional patterns that emerge from such experiences can be incredibly subtle and pervasive. Wyatt might unknowingly isolate himself as a means of avoiding further pain, creating a self-imposed prison of sorts. This avoidance, though seemingly a way to protect himself, paradoxically reinforces the very loneliness he desperately seeks to escape. It's as though the mind, in its attempt to shield the heart, inadvertently reinforces the patterns of hurt. Consequently, consider the potential for emotional triggers. Everyday experiences, seemingly innocuous moments, could act as catalysts, instantly transporting Wyatt back to the pain of his loss. A certain song, a familiar scent, a sudden change in the weather, any of these could serve as a painful reminder, reawakening the intensity of his grief and potentially pushing him further into isolation. Another crucial layer is the impact of these ingrained patterns on his ability to trust. Deep loss can erode the very foundation of trust, not just in others, but also in life itself. The feeling of betrayal by fate, the sense that the world is an inherently unsafe place, can make it extraordinarily difficult to open up to others, to risk vulnerability again. It's a bit like a soldier who, having witnessed the horrors of war, struggles to trust the peace that follows. Conversely, consider the impact of Hannah's past on her emotional landscape. Perhaps she's developed a pattern of people-pleasing, a learned behavior born out of a need for approval and validation. This could manifest as a tendency to prioritize the needs of others, even at the expense of her own well-being. It's a silent plea for acceptance, a desperate attempt to avoid abandonment, even if it means sacrificing her own voice. Furthermore, think about the role of internalized shame. Hannah may have absorbed negative messages about her worth, leading her to believe she is somehow flawed or undeserving of love. This can manifest in a constant self-criticism, a tendency to focus on her perceived shortcomings, and a reluctance to accept kindness or compassion. Now, consider how this applies when you feel unworthy of love or acceptance. Do you push people away, fearing they will discover your perceived flaws? Do you sabotage relationships, believing you are destined to be alone? Let's now delve into the critical element of understanding the other person. The act of stepping into their shoes and viewing the world through their eyes, even when those perspectives diverge from your own. This is not about condoning harmful behaviors or excusing hurtful actions. It's about cultivating empathy, the capacity to recognize and share the feelings of another. To truly understand Wyatt, we must consider the context of his isolation. Perhaps his stoicism, his reluctance to engage, stems not from a lack of a feeling, but rather from a deep-seated fear of vulnerability. Consider the weight of his past, the devastating loss he endured. This past could have fostered a belief that opening his heart will inevitably lead to pain. Furthermore, imagine the internal dialogue he might be having, a constant battle between the desire for connection and the fear of repeating past traumas. He may be wrestling with feelings of inadequacy, believing that he is somehow flawed or damaged, and therefore unworthy of love or companionship. Now, consider how this belief could shape his interactions with Hannah. He might unconsciously push her away, sabotaging any potential for intimacy, believing that he is protecting her from the pain he fears he will inevitably cause. Building on this, we must acknowledge that everyone, regardless of their outward demeanor, is navigating their own internal landscape of emotions. Even the most seemingly self-sufficient individuals are, at their core, driven by the human need for connection, belonging, and love. For Wyatt, this need may be buried deep beneath layers of grief and self-protection, but it is still present. Consequently, we must also strive to understand Hannah's perspective, her motivations, and the circumstances that led her to Wyatt's doorstep. Consider the pressures she may have faced, the expectations placed upon her by her family, and the shame she may have experienced. Her decision to seek refuge on his land, despite the potential risks, speaks to a profound desperation, a yearning for safety, and a belief that somewhere, somehow, she could finally find a place to belong. Another crucial layer is the impact of past betrayals on her ability to trust. Imagine the emotional wounds inflicted by the father of her child, the people who cast her out. This could have led to a deep-seated distrust of men, a fear of intimacy, and a reluctance to let anyone get close. Now, consider how this fear could manifest in her interactions with Wyatt. She might be hesitant to fully open up, constantly testing his boundaries, and struggling to believe in his genuine kindness. Conversely, we must also acknowledge that neither Wyatt nor Hannah is perfect. They both carry their own baggage, their own patterns of behavior that may inadvertently cause pain to the other. Understanding is not about excusing these behaviors, but about recognizing that they often stem from deeper wounds and unmet needs. It is about viewing each other with compassion, not judgment, and creating a space where both individuals feel safe enough to be vulnerable, to share their truths, and to work through their challenges together. Let's now illuminate the path toward effective communication, a cornerstone for forging safe and meaningful connections. Imagine the challenges Wyatt and Hannah face in the realm of expressing their needs and vulnerabilities. For someone like Wyatt, accustomed to solitude, articulating his emotional states might feel like navigating uncharted territory. He might struggle to find the words, the right phrasing, to convey the nuances of his feelings. The very act of verbalizing his pain could feel like a threat, a risk he's unwilling to take. Furthermore, consider the potential for misinterpretations. Without clear and open communication, both parties could easily misunderstand each other's intentions, leading to frustration, resentment, and a widening emotional chasm. Imagine a scenario where Wyatt, in an attempt to protect Hannah, withholds information or makes decisions without consulting her. This might be perceived as a lack of trust, a subtle form of control, even though his intentions are rooted in care. Consequently, the establishment of a safe space is paramount, a sanctuary where both individuals feel secure enough to express their authentic selves without fear of judgment or reprisal. This entails active listening, the practice of truly hearing and understanding the other person's perspective, even when it differs from your own. Consider the power of simply acknowledging someone's feelings, validating their experiences, without necessarily agreeing with them. A phrase as simple as, "I hear you," can bridge a world of distance, fostering a sense of being seen and understood. Another crucial layer is the importance of setting healthy boundaries. This is not about building walls, but about defining what you are and are not willing to accept in a relationship. For Hannah, who has likely experienced a history of boundary violations, this is particularly critical. She needs to feel empowered to assert her needs, to communicate her limits, and to protect her emotional well-being. Now, consider how this dynamic might play out in their relationship. Hannah might initially struggle to speak up for herself, fearing rejection or abandonment. Wyatt, in turn, must learn to respect her boundaries, even when they conflict with his own desires. Conversely, think about the role of nonverbal communication. Body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice can often convey more than words. Wyatt, accustomed to a life of silence, might unknowingly send mixed signals, his guarded demeanor potentially misinterpreted as a lack of interest or affection. Hannah, sensitive to the nuances of human interaction, might pick up on these subtle cues, leading her to question his feelings and intentions. Building a strong foundation of trust requires both parties to become more aware of their nonverbal communication and to strive for consistency between their words and actions. Imagine the subtle shifts in their interactions, the gradual softening of their defenses as they learn to communicate with greater clarity, honesty, and compassion. Let's now turn our attention to the very essence of conscious love, a concept that transcends mere romantic ideals, encompassing a profound shift in perspective and behavior. Consider, if you will, the transformative power of recognizing the inherent wholeness of another, appreciating their unique essence, flaws and all. This differs markedly from the tendency to idealize or project our own needs onto a partner. True, lasting love embraces the reality of the other person, fostering acceptance rather than demanding perfection. Furthermore, a key component of conscious love involves cultivating a deep sense of self-awareness. This means understanding your own emotional triggers, patterns, and unmet needs. Only when you have a firm grasp of your own internal landscape can you approach a relationship with clarity and integrity, avoiding the pitfalls of projection and codependency. Consequently, a pivotal element in fostering conscious love is embracing vulnerability. This requires the courage to shed the masks we often wear, to reveal our authentic selves, with all our imperfections. Building on this, however, vulnerability is not simply about sharing our deepest fears and insecurities. It also involves being receptive to the vulnerability of our partner, creating a safe space where they feel free to express their own truths. Another crucial layer is the practice of empathy, actively seeking to understand your partner's perspective, even when you disagree. It's about setting aside your own judgments and biases, striving to see the world through their eyes. Imagine two people, like Wyatt and Hannah, learning to navigate their individual histories, their unique perspectives, and the subtle dance of their shared existence. Conversely, a hallmark of conscious love is the commitment to personal growth. This isn't about changing your partner, but about supporting their journey of self-discovery while simultaneously embarking on your own. Think of it as a partnership, where both individuals are encouraged to evolve, to learn, and to become the best versions of themselves. Now consider how this applies when you feel challenged or triggered by your partner's behavior. Instead of reacting defensively, can you choose to approach the situation with curiosity and a willingness to understand? Consider the example of a gardener tending to a fragile plant. The gardener understands the plant's needs sunlight, water, nourishment, and provides them, fostering growth. Conscious love functions in a similar manner, nurturing the potential within each individual. Now, consider the subtle yet profound impact of forgiveness, both of others and of oneself. It's a potent elixir that can dissolve the corrosive effects of resentment and bitterness, paving the way for healing. Furthermore, it's not a passive act, but rather a conscious decision, a deliberate release of the grip of past hurts. Think of it as untangling a knot, slowly, patiently, until the thread separates and the tension dissipates. This isn't about excusing harmful behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional shackles that bind you to the past. Building on this, however, The path of forgiveness often necessitates a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. This might involve acknowledging the harm caused by others, as well as taking responsibility for your own role in the dynamic. This isn't easy. It requires introspection, honesty, and a willingness to let go of the need to be right. To illustrate, imagine a couple locked in a cycle of blame. One partner constantly points the finger, while the other retreats, unable to accept responsibility. True forgiveness necessitates a willingness to break this pattern, to both apologize and accept the apology, thus creating space for reconciliation. Consequently, another crucial layer is the understanding that forgiveness is a process, not a destination. It's a journey with its own ebb and flow, its own moments of clarity and confusion. There will be days when the pain feels fresh, when the memories resurface with unsettling intensity. There will also be times when you experience a sense of lightness, a feeling of liberation from the weight of the past. It's about being patient with yourself, allowing yourself the time and space to heal. Another crucial layer is the recognition that forgiveness is often intertwined with self-compassion. This involves treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would extend to a dear friend. Now, consider how this applies when you make a mistake, when you stumble, when you fall short of your own expectations. Do you berate yourself, wallow in self, or do you offer yourself a gentle hand, acknowledging your imperfections and reminding yourself that you are worthy of love and acceptance? Conversely, consider the potential for unaddressed grief to fester, to morph into a form of self-punishment. Individuals may become trapped in cycles of self-blame, replaying past events, and agonizing over what they could have done differently. This can manifest as depression, anxiety, and a diminished capacity for joy. To combat this, it's essential to create space for processing the loss, allowing the emotions to be felt, and acknowledging the need for professional support, if necessary. Imagine a river that is blocked, unable to flow freely. The water stagnates, becoming murky and foul. Unprocessed grief acts in a similar way, preventing the natural flow of emotions, leading to inner turmoil. Now, let's shift our focus to the intricate dance of rebuilding trust, particularly in the wake of betrayal or profound disappointment. Consider the subtle shifts in behavior that signal the beginning of this arduous process. It's not merely about grand gestures or sweeping pronouncements. It's the accumulation of small, consistent actions that gradually erode the walls of doubt. Furthermore, the crucial ingredient here is consistency. One can't simply declare trust. It's cultivated through a dependable pattern of behavior. The person seeking to rebuild trust must demonstrate reliability, predictability, and follow-through in their actions. This means keeping promises, being honest, and admitting mistakes. Consequently, consider the value of transparency. When there's been a breach of trust, withholding information can be toxic. Openness, however, even when it's uncomfortable, can slowly chip away at the suspicion that lingers. This could involve sharing your thoughts, feelings, and actions with vulnerability. Another important aspect is the willingness to accept responsibility. Acknowledging the pain caused and sincerely apologizing is often the first step. But true accountability goes beyond a simple "I'm sorry." It involves understanding the impact of your actions and actively working to repair the damage. This can entail making amends, offering restitution, or committing to specific behaviors to prevent future harm. Conversely, it's important to understand the perspective of the person who has been betrayed. Rebuilding trust is a two-way street. The person who has been hurt needs to feel safe, to have their feelings validated, and to be given time to heal. This means being patient, understanding, and avoiding any pressure to get over it quickly. Now, consider how this dynamic unfolds in a context where the stakes are high, where the wounds are deep, and where the past threatens to undermine the present. Think about the power of small acts of kindness, a thoughtful gesture, a helping hand, a shared moment of laughter. These seemingly insignificant moments can slowly weave a new tapestry of connection. It is the subtle art of creating experiences that foster a sense of security and connection, and that show that the hurt person is now safe. Imagine a delicate flower trying to grow in rocky soil. It needs to be nurtured, watered, and protected from the elements. Rebuilding trust is much the same, delicate and vulnerable. Let's now explore the delicate art of navigating the complexities of external judgments, the whispers of societal expectations, and the pressures that can arise when a couple's relationship deviates from conventional norms. Imagine the scrutiny Wyatt and Hannah might face in a small, close-knit community like rural Montana. The townspeople, accustomed to a certain way of life, may harbor suspicion, fueled by gossip or their own preconceived notions. Furthermore, the weight of tradition can be a heavy burden. The notion of family, the expectations surrounding marriage and parenthood, can create a rigid framework that leaves little room for nuance or alternative paths. The couple's unconventional circumstances, their shared history of hardship, might be met with skepticism or outright condemnation. Consequently, navigating these external pressures demands both resilience and discernment, choosing to prioritize their own connection, their own values, over the judgments of others requires a strong foundation of self-belief and mutual support. It's about recognizing that true belonging comes from within, not from the approval of the outside world. Another crucial layer is the ability to cultivate a sense of detachment from the opinions of others, without becoming isolated or dismissive. This is a delicate balancing act. It involves acknowledging the validity of different perspectives, while simultaneously protecting your own emotional space. The ability to filter out negativity, to focus on the positive aspects of your relationship, is essential for weathering the storms of external judgment. Now, consider how this applies when you encounter criticism or disapproval from family members, friends, or colleagues. Do you internalize their negativity, allowing it to erode your self-worth, or do you maintain a sense of inner peace, recognizing that their opinions do not define you? Conversely, there is the danger of becoming overly defensive or isolated, creating an us against the world mentality. While it's important to protect your relationship from external pressures, it's equally important to maintain healthy connections with others, to cultivate a sense of community. The key is to find a balance between protecting your relationship while remaining open to the positive influences of the outside world. Imagine a tree, battered by the wind, but with roots that run deep. The tree can withstand the storm because it is grounded in the earth. True strength comes not only from withstanding the elements, but also from drawing nourishment from the soil. Now, let's turn to the crucial act of embracing the beauty of imperfection. The acceptance of flaws and the understanding that true connection thrives not on unattainable ideals, but on the shared experience of being human. Think about the pressure society often places on us to present a flawless facade, to project an image of perfection. This can be especially taxing in relationships, where we may feel compelled to hide our vulnerabilities, our insecurities, for fear of judgment or rejection. Furthermore, consider the paradox of vulnerability. It is often the very thing we most fear that ultimately becomes the bedrock of intimacy. When we allow ourselves to be seen, with all our imperfections, we create space for genuine connection. This is the essence of acceptance. Consequently, the willingness to embrace imperfection involves recognizing that we are all works in progress, constantly evolving, learning, and growing. It means letting go of the need to be perfect and allowing ourselves and our partners the space to make mistakes. This recognition is not about lowering standards. It's about raising the bar for authenticity. Another crucial layer is the cultivation of self-compassion. When we treat ourselves with kindness and understanding, we become more capable of extending the same grace to others. Now, consider how this applies when you find yourself in conflict with your partner. Instead of blaming or criticizing, can you approach the situation with empathy, recognizing that both of you are doing the best you can with the resources you have? Conversely, the pursuit of perfection can be a significant barrier to building healthy relationships. The constant striving for an unattainable ideal can lead to disappointment, frustration, and a sense of inadequacy. Imagine a sculptor who is never satisfied with their work, constantly chiseling away, never allowing the piece to be complete. This can be a metaphor for the individual who is always striving for perfection, never allowing themselves or their partner to simply be. Furthermore, consider the role of forgiveness in this context. When we embrace imperfection, we are more likely to forgive ourselves and others for our mistakes. This doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior. It means acknowledging the reality of human fallibility. It means choosing to focus on the good, on the potential for growth, and on the shared journey of becoming. Think about the couple who have built a home together. They may have made mistakes, there may be cracks in the foundation, but they choose to focus on the love and the shared memories. Let's now ponder the delicate art of balancing individual needs and the collective well-being of a relationship. It's a dance of self-discovery and mutual consideration, a constant negotiation between autonomy and togetherness. The challenge lies in honoring each partner's individuality while simultaneously fostering a sense of shared purpose and connection. Moreover, the capacity to articulate and advocate for one's own needs is paramount. This isn't about being selfish, it's about self-respect. It's about recognizing that your own needs, desires, and boundaries are just as valid as your partner's. When we suppress our true selves, we create a breeding ground for resentment and dissatisfaction, ultimately undermining the very relationship we seek to nurture. Consequently, the ability to listen empathetically to your partner's needs, even when they differ from your own, is equally critical. This requires suspending judgment, setting aside your own agenda, and truly hearing their perspective. It's about recognizing that your partner's needs are not a threat to your own. Rather, they are an opportunity for growth, understanding, and deeper connection. Another crucial layer is the establishment of clear and respectful boundaries. This isn't about creating walls, it's about defining the space within which you both feel safe and comfortable. Imagine a garden where each plant has its own space, its own needs for sunlight and water. Boundaries function in a similar way, ensuring that both partners have the resources they need to thrive. Now, consider how this applies when you feel overwhelmed or depleted in your relationship. Can you communicate your needs clearly and assertively, without blaming or accusing your partner? On the other hand, there's the potential for imbalances. If one partner consistently prioritizes their own needs, while the other suppresses theirs, the relationship will likely become strained. This can manifest as resentment, withdrawal, and a gradual erosion of intimacy. Imagine a seesaw, perpetually tilted to one side. The imbalance will inevitably lead to a sense of instability and discomfort. Furthermore, consider the impact of external influences. Friends, family, work demands all can exert pressure on the relationship, creating competing demands on your time and energy. It's essential to develop strategies for managing these external pressures, ensuring that your relationship remains a priority. Think about a boat navigating a storm. To stay afloat, the crew must work together, adjusting the sails and bailing out the water. Let's now turn our attention to the often overlooked power of shared experiences in solidifying a connection. Think about the myriad ways in which two individuals can weave a tapestry of shared memories, the subtle threads that bind them together in a unique and intimate way. These experiences, ranging from the mundane to the extraordinary, become the building blocks of a shared history, a common ground upon which the relationship can flourish. Furthermore, the act of creating these shared experiences is a deliberate choice, a conscious investment in the relationship. It involves a willingness to step outside your comfort zone, to try new things, and to embrace the unexpected. This could mean anything from a weekend getaway to a simple evening spent cooking together. The key is the shared participation, the mutual engagement in the experience. Consequently, consider the impact of shared laughter. Moments of joy, the ability to find humor in the everyday, can be incredibly bonding. Laughter releases endorphins, which promote feelings of well-being and connection. Imagine a couple who, after a long day, can still find a moment to share a joke, to laugh at themselves or at the absurdities of life. Another crucial layer is the role of shared challenges, navigating difficult situations together. Supporting each other through times of adversity can forge a deep sense of resilience and mutual respect. When you face a challenge side by side, you learn to rely on each other, to appreciate each other's strengths, and to develop a shared sense of purpose. Now, consider how this dynamic might have played out for Wyatt and Hannah. Perhaps they faced a financial crisis, a health scare, or the return of someone from the past. The manner in which they responded together would have likely strengthened their bond. Conversely, the absence of shared experiences can create a sense of distance and disconnection. If two individuals live largely separate lives, with little overlap in their activities, interests, or social circles, they may begin to drift apart. This doesn't necessarily mean that they don't care about each other. It simply means that they lack the shared history, the common ground, upon which to build a lasting connection. Think about two ships passing in the night. They may briefly acknowledge each other, but they continue on their separate courses, with little opportunity for sustained interaction. As the pieces of this emotional landscape begin to coalesce, we find ourselves standing at a precipice, gazing out at a vista profoundly altered by the journey we've undertaken together. We've navigated the shadowy valleys of the past, explored the labyrinthian corridors of the heart, and traced the contours of human connection with a reverence born of shared experience. The initial trigger, the catalyst for this exploration, has blossomed into a complex ecosystem, a network of intertwined realities that shape how we love, how we heal, and how we allow ourselves to be seen. Reflecting on this journey so far, we observe a fundamental truth: the capacity for love. But true intimacy is not a static attribute, but a dynamic process of becoming. It's a continuous unfolding, a dance between self-discovery and mutual understanding. We've seen how the seeds of our emotional patterns, often planted in the fertile soil of past experiences, can either blossom into vibrant expressions of connection or choke the life out of potential growth. The very act of acknowledging these patterns, of bringing them into the light of awareness, becomes the first step towards liberation. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, illuminated by the courage to confront the shadows within, to embrace the imperfections, and to extend compassion to ourselves and others. We've witnessed the power of perspective, the transformative potential of seeing the world through the eyes of another, even when their experiences and motivations differ greatly from our own. This empathy becomes the bridge that connects us, forging bonds that transcend the boundaries of individual experience. Drawing these strands together, we see that communication is not merely the exchange of words, it is the art of creating a safe space, a haven where vulnerability is not a weakness, but a source of strength. It is the practice of active listening, the willingness to truly hear and understand, even when the message is difficult to bear. The act of building trust, the patient construction of a bridge across the chasm of doubt, is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It is the deliberate choice to believe in the possibility of connection, even after experiencing the sting of betrayal. As we pivot towards the final reflection, the culmination of our shared exploration, consider the metaphor of a sculptor. The sculptor begins with a formless block of stone, a raw material. Through careful observation, patient chiseling, and a deep understanding of the medium, the sculptor gradually reveals the beauty that lies within. Love, in its most profound form, operates in a similar manner. transforming the raw material of our lives into something exquisite, something enduring. The final reflection, then, awaits, holding a promise of the ultimate unveiling. And so, we arrive at the precipice of conclusion, standing at the edge of a narrative that has unfolded. Like the petals of a long-awaited bloom, we have traversed the landscapes of isolation, the echoing chambers of unresolved grief, and the sun-drenched plains of nascent hope. We've witnessed the forging of connection amidst the harshest conditions, the quiet resilience of hearts battered by life's relentless storms. We have touched upon the intricate dance of vulnerability, the delicate balance between self-preservation and the courageous act of opening oneself to the possibility of love. The core of this exploration resonates with the enduring power of transformation. It speaks to the innate human capacity to heal, to grow, and to find solace in the most unexpected of places. We are not simply defined by our past experiences, but by the choices we make in the present moment. Each act of compassion, each instance of choosing connection over isolation, each embrace of vulnerability becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of our lives, shaping a masterpiece that is uniquely our own. Consider the profound implications of this understanding. The capacity to create a life of meaning, of deep and abiding connection, does not depend on circumstance or external validation. It resides within each of us, a hidden wellspring of strength and resilience. The journey towards authentic love, towards a relationship that nourishes and sustains, is not a destination to be reached, but a continuous practice of self-discovery, of mutual understanding, and of unwavering commitment to growth. This is not a solitary endeavor. The connections we forge with others, the bonds of friendship, family, and romantic partnership, serve as mirrors, reflecting our own inner landscapes. Through these interactions, we come to know ourselves more deeply, to understand our patterns, our triggers, and our unmet needs. By offering compassion, by extending grace, and by embracing the imperfections of both ourselves and those we love, we create a space where healing can flourish. The true practice begins now. It begins with the recognition that the stories we carry within us shape the world we inhabit. It starts with the courage to confront the shadows, to speak our truths, and to risk the vulnerability that unlocks the door to authentic connection. It is a commitment to cultivate empathy, to see the world through the eyes of another, and to approach every interaction with an open heart. It is about understanding that the greatest journey is the inward one, and that the most enduring love is the love we cultivate for ourselves. As the windswept plains of life continue to shift and change, may you find the strength to navigate the storms, the courage to embrace the beauty of your own unfolding, and the unwavering belief in the transformative power of